I'd like to welcome everybody to tonight's meeting of the Sustainability Advisory Board. It's Monday, October 4th at 6 o'clock, and I see that we do have quorum, but I believe, Brandon, that we need to take roll call because we're virtual, right?
Correct. So I'll go ahead and do that. Chair Davey.
Present.
Ken Osmond. Eric DeGroot.
Here.
Lisa Marone.
Here.
Michael Beardsley. If you're muted, Michael, please unmute.
Here.
Thank you.
Sorry about that.
And Vic Oliver.
Here.
Okay, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people. That's quorum, correct? Oh, and here we got Michelle. Perfect.
Quorum, yeah.
We were just taking roll call, Michelle. If you want to say, you're here.
Michelle, can you hear us?
Michelle, we just took roll call. You say present here.
Well, we do have quorum without her, but I'm sure that we'll be seeing her soon here.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we can sort of see her now. Yeah. Okay, so the meeting has been called to order. There is no one here, I'm quite certain, who wishes to make a public comment, since it's only us. So we'll move on to approval of the minutes from, I had trouble believing this, way back on June 7th was the last time that we met. So if you guys have had a chance to look at those minutes, I read through them again just to remind myself of what the heck we were doing back in June. You probably all had the same sort of reaction. Is there anyone who would like to make a motion to accept the minutes?
Motion to accept the minutes.
Thank you, Ken. Is there a second?
Second, Lisa.
Thank you, Lisa. All in favor of accepting the minutes as written? Say aye. Oh, no, you can't.
Aye.
No, you gotta wait.
We have to do roll.
The roll call
I do roll
vote.
call.
Darn
Lovely
virtual.
All right, so we'll do the roll call
Sorry,
minutes from June 2021. All right, we'll start with Miss Davey.
Aye.
Mr. Osmond.
Aye.
Mr. DeGroot.
Aye.
Miss Marone.
Aye.
Mr. Beardsley.
Aye.
Miss Oliver.
Aye.
Miss Bogdan Mutzel. Can't hear you if you're there. And Miss Halquist.
Aye.
Thank you.
Michelle, can you hear us? You're showing as present but muted.
Well,
If
well,
you
for
are
now,
talking, we're not hearing you, just so you know. Okay.
I'll mark it down for 7 for now.
It passes. Yeah.
Hi,
Okay.
I'm here. Sorry. I just realized that I couldn't hear everyone. I had to reset my headphone settings, so I'm here.
Okay, and do you agree that we should approve the minutes, Michelle?
I do.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, with that, we will move on then to number 4 on our agenda, the residential solar panel permitting. We do have an update on that. For those of you who have recently reread your minutes or remember back till June, you'll remember that we did have a quite extensive discussion about residential solar panels. Lisa had given us a very nice presentation, and the goal was to have the permitting process changed. Do you want to address that, Brandon?
Yeah, sure. So basically from that meeting, then you know, the recommendations from this board went to council along with some staff recommendations, and basically it got approved at one of the council meetings in July. I don't remember the exact date. So the code has been approved by council. The updates have been made, and residential rooftop and ground mounted solar is permitted by right. It is no longer conditionally approved. So it's an electrical permit and whatever else inspections requires. They might require a building permit too, but I think they just require an electrical permit.
And because it no longer requires the conditional use permit, it doesn't have to go to the plan commission, and it doesn't have to have that additional, it cut about $500 off the fee, so, which was substantially, so it was most of it, so that's all good news. Does anybody have any discussion on that?
What is the fee now?
Whatever an electrical permit fee is, I don't know what that is. That's an inspection fee. I could look it up on the fee schedule quick if we really need to know.
I can look it
It's
up. Thank you.
somewhere less than $300 now, Ken, I want to say, because it had been in the neighborhood of over 700. Oh, Pat, do you know?
I looked at that this weekend. I think it depends on the size of the project. For an electrical permit, that means this isn't specific to solar. It's any electrical permit depends on the dollar amount of the project.
Okay.
So it's similar to any other building permit then. It's based off of valuation. So, you know, if it starts at $1,000, it's going to be X amount, and then it goes up incrementally for every $1,000
Yeah.
of the value of the job. So, you know, if it's a $20,000 job, it's going to be significantly more than that $1,000 job is.
Did that help? You're going to put it all across the top of all the restaurants, right?
I wish I could.
Okay, any other discussion on number 4, the residential solar panel permitting? I don't know if Lisa had anything to add after your presentation last time, or Pat, if you wanted to mention anything, or maybe on the next item.
I can just mention, I have an internship at the city of Appleton, and I actually got to visit a residential solar rooftop, and I talked with the inspector, and basically it's a $50 fee. He goes and inspects the roof while the solar is being installed, and after that, you're good to go. So I believe it's similar in Oshkosh, and I think this will be a way more efficient process for people.
Yes, a lot more doable. Great. Well, thank you for that report. Pat?
Where are we in terms of having information on the city website for people who say, you know, what do I need to do to get permitted for solar panels? Is that quite a bit of work left to do on that, or?
I mean, so, you know, some of the work is done, but it's at this point, it's kind of turning the questions and answers into like something pretty, not just you know, sentences.
Right. Okay.
So like a pamphlet or a brochure. So that takes a little bit of more work because we got to put it into a different program, and like InDesign or Photoshop or something. So
Oh, okay.
because we want to make like something presentable that could be handed out at the front desk, even, you know, not just a sheet of paper with questions and answers on it.
Right. So maybe a month or two, probably, or
I don't have a deadline on it, but I mean, if it's
by next spring for sure.
yeah, definitely, I would say I mean, because now we're coming into the season when solar can't really be installed anymore, from what I've been told. So I would say, yeah, definitely by like Q1 of 2022.
Oh, okay, yeah. That's when people would start. People might be contacting and getting estimates, but yeah, it's when the snow starts falling or when it gets real rainy and cold.
Sure, it's definitely on my list of things to do. I don't personally have access to some of those programs, so I have to like loop another planner in and work together with somebody. So we've got to carve out some time for 2 people. It's a license thing, trying to save the city some money so we don't all have license when we don't all need them.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you.
Brandon, I had a message from Brad just now. He's not able to get in on the link. Can you send
Okay.
him the link that you sent me?
Sure.
I can't find it, so,
Yeah, no problem. I'll send it to him now.
okay, thank you.
I do have one question that's kind of a big deal, reducing that process, simplifying it and reducing the cost. Would there be a communication strategy around that to the public, either via the planning commission or the SAB, to let people know that good news?
There actually was some, I want to say I saw it in one of our local newspapers at the time that it passed council, Ken, but
Oshkosh Herald, I believe, posted the news story.
Oh, good. Okay.
yeah, and sometimes the Examiner will pick that sort of thing up too. But we should probably consider other ways to do some promotion. I don't know if we've had anything on our Facebook page, Brandon. That might be another avenue.
I think I did a post like when it just had passed council, but again, once that document is created that has kind of how do you do this in the city of Oshkosh kind of thing, we can do we can have that document posted along with the city newsletter that gets out every Friday.
Okay.
So that's something that I
Excellent.
was considering doing too. But again, I would like to do it once that document's created because it can go along with the newsletter. And
Makes
then
sense.
that can also just kind of be pushed out wherever. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Yes.
Okay. And yes, I agree. You should all be patting yourselves on the back. Good job.
Thank you. Okay, then we'll move on to number 5, solar group buy for Oshkosh. I think I'm going to turn this over to you, Brandon, first, and I have a feeling we'll be hearing from some other members also.
Yeah, so going back to our August meeting, okay, so the plan was council approved the new, solar ordinance, we'll call it, and that kind of allowed us then to jump on the train of solar group buy that Pat had brought up multiple times at multiple meetings. And we even had a presentation, if people remember, I think in the beginning of 2020, for those of you that were there, we had MREA, I'm pretty sure it was somebody from MREA come and speak. I could be wrong, but I think that's what happened. And so if you guys don't mind, I'll share my screen here. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. Yeah, this will just go away. Can't click my there's a toolbar up top that I can't get out of my way to click what I'm trying to click. Get rid of this. Not sure how to get rid of this. Usually it just goes away.
Are you looking for item 5 or?
No, I have these documents pulled up that I'm trying to.
And it doesn't let you get there, huh?
There it goes, finally. Okay, so these documents are, I believe, Pat, that you may have sent these to me and Margie at one point. So for instance, this is again MREA. I can't remember what that stands for right now.
Midwest
Midwest
Renewable Energy.
Association.
Okay. And so there's a couple documents here that I have. Again, this is from our August meeting because when that ordinance changed, it allowed us then to apply basically for this program. Getting rid of that conditional use permit requirement opened the door to this. since August, again, we didn't have quorum, so the meeting didn't occur. And I guess what I wanted to show you guys, if you wanted to access this on your own, I can maybe stop sharing my screen. It's under the boards and commissions page, and then just under the agendas and minutes, and then you go to our meeting. And then these documents here. So in between August and now, maybe even last month, a different solar group called SolarLegacy Co-op has formed a group buy for the Fox Valley. So it includes, I think, Appleton, Menasha, Oshkosh, and kind of our surrounding areas. We did meet with them to kind of understand, what their plan is, how they came to be, and just give us kind of a presentation on what Legacy Solar Co-op is and what this group buy is all about. And basically, I wanted to leave this on the agenda for you guys to kind of decide. And Pat, I'm going to lean on you a little bit here. The difference, there might be a difference between these two, and there might not be. And I'm not the one that should make the determination if there is or isn't. So that's kind of that. I guess what I'm getting at is I'd like for you guys to try to decide if we want to pursue this application through MREA and do potentially a City of Oshkosh solar group buy, or do we want to focus on, somehow participating with this group that's doing this group buy already in the Fox Valley. And with that, I'm going to leave it to Pat to say anything more that she may know.
Okay, so I'm, I was not aware of SolarLegacy until when I heard about their Fox Cities or Fox Valley group buy. And what they're doing is a little bit different than, from what I can tell, and they're doing a little bit different than what the MREA does. With the MREA, you apply for your, whether it's your city or your county to be approved for them to help you with a group buy, and then you form an advisory committee with people within the community, and they pick the contractor. With the Fox Valley group buy with the SolarLegacy, the contractor is already picked. Okay, the contractor they picked is Northwind, which is a reputable solar installer and has been around for a long time. Now, and we had our panels installed with the Sierra Club group buy, and the way theirs worked is the more people who participated, the greater the rebate you would get. So you paid your money up front, but then you got a check later when the whole group buy was done with. I asked SolarLegacy if that's what they did, and they said no, the discount is built in up front, and it's just the contractor will give the same discount no matter how many people participate. So I guess with the SolarLegacy, the question would be, how big a discount are you giving then? How much is it, by it being a group buy, how much cheaper is it going to be for the homeowners than if they just contracted on their own with Northwind? Do you understand what I'm saying? So is it really, the idea of the group buy is that it becomes cheaper for the homeowners. Is this really true or not? Will it really be cheaper than if you just went on your own and, got a bid from Northwind, got a bid from some other solar installers and just picked your best bid?
Right.
But, so that would probably, I've heard them give a talk, and I've I haven't heard of them, but I think they've been around for a while. I'm not really sure. Did you get that from your meeting with them, Brandon? How long the SolarLegacy group has been around? They do other things other than group buys.
Yeah, I'm sure that they said it. I don't recall how long they had been around, but everything that you said is accurate in what their meeting with us was too. It was they said they did put out an RFP, which is a request for proposal for groups to participate in. And Northwind is the one that they selected, and like you said, they have this contracted amount in it, and it didn't appear to me that they're that the more that participated, the better the deal was going to be. It was like maybe a set price already up front. They've already discounted it in hopes that enough people participate. So I think you kind of nailed it on the head there. It's maybe a little different than the MREA one or the one you participated
And I don't
in.
know if the MREA does it like the Sierra Club group buy. I was assuming
Okay.
it's the same, that the more people participate, the.
But ultimately, what Pat's trying to say is, and again, I don't know if someone wants to try to do this, but it would be before we put a lot of energy into promoting this solar group buy, it might be worth trying to determine if in fact it's the same price as a local contractor or much cheaper or more expensive or
Yeah, try to figure out what their pricing is. And of course, the pricing is always very individualized, depends on how many panels you get. And basically, I suppose how difficult, if you have, I'm assuming if you got a second story roof, it might be more difficult to install it if you're on a ranch or something. So some of those things may affect price. I don't know, but yeah, it'd be interesting to know how they determine what kind of discount they're giving and what advantage is there to somebody going with the group buy as opposed to just contracting with Northwind separately but
or some other contractor.
or some other contractor. Now with applying for the MREA, it was a while ago, but I think I emailed a question and it seemed that you're more likely to get accepted for them to do your group buy if you maybe collaborate with surrounding communities or maybe involve the whole county instead of just the city of Oshkosh, so that they have, so if we decide to try to do the MREA one, we maybe should think about how do we include surrounding towns or how do we get the county to come out in support of it, which, I don't think would be a problem, but it might be a little bit more work. When I initially saw the information about the group buy with SolarLegacy, I thought, oh, it's all taken care of for us. We just have to, let people know about it and we got it done, But I guess it's reasonable to ask them, well, what kind of discount are you giving people by participating in this as opposed to just getting their own bids, or contracting directly. I don't know I'm not sure how the existence of the SolarLegacy group buy will affect your ability to get MREA to sponsor you for a group buy, because I think there is a question on the application if there have been group buys recently in your area, and I don't know if that's a positive or a negative if you say yes to that,
So Pat, is the group buy that you participated in through the Sierra Club, that's done, I take it?
Yes. Otherwise, I wouldn't have gotten any money from them.
And is that something that is a recurring thing? Would that be coming back at some point?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I don't know,
I mean, I'm just thinking there could be any number of groups out there. Maybe we just want to try to do some promotion locally, that if people are interested in solar panels, that they could look at some of these and choices and see what felt best to them. I don't know that we really are
individuals
should be in the business of making recommendations unless we're truly sponsoring a group.
Yeah. Now with the MREA application, one of the things you have to do is the governing board, but so it'd be the Common Council or the Board of Supervisors for the county should is supposed to issue a resolution in support of the group buy. If part of the application process with the MREA. With this, I don't know, did SolarLegacy want something similar, or we're asking for something similar, or? or not really, or just help
They
kind
were
of
essentially
advertise
looking
it?
for promotion, like, if we could, for instance, have them come and present at SAB, and if
Oh,
we could put out a newsletter, have them be a part of the newsletter and promote them on the SAB Facebook page, and mostly promote the group buy for them
would they want us to
in the capacity that we can do.
promote them exclusively, or?
Mhm.
Okay, so they wouldn't want us saying, by the way, there's also these solar contractors out here, right? They don't want us doing that.
Right.
Right, but they wouldn't, or, because I'm sure you could have a part of our thing saying, hey, these are the different companies that do, solar installations that, have a good track record, but they don't really want us doing that. They want us just promoting their group buy, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and like I said, we're supposed to set up another meeting. We didn't really have a lot of time with the parties that I wanted to have in that meeting. Director of Community Development, and then our Planning Service Manager, Mark Lyons. There wasn't the date that worked for everybody on their end and our end. We didn't have a lot of time. We had like maybe 30 minutes. So it wasn't really enough time to go through everything. So we are planning to meet again.
Yeah.
To learn more. So
Their group buy is underway already, right?
yes.
I think, right? I mean, and they certainly wouldn't take away the group buy if say our city council didn't endorse it or something. It's still going to happen, right?
Correct.
But it'd be the matter to what extent that we want to help provide publicity for it.
Correct.
Yeah.
It would sure be nice to know how many people in Oshkosh might be interested in this and how we would go about reaching them.
I had 24 people show up on Saturday.
Tell us about Saturday, Pat. What happened on Saturday?
Oh, just there were at least, 9 o'clock, there wasn't somebody there right away, but between 9 and 3, I had somebody there all the time.
But what were you doing on Saturday?
I was, my home was the solar, I'm sorry. My home was a solar site as one of the national solar tours. So, I did, you go in my backyard and you look at the panels, but I made up a poster showing with photographs of the inverter. I didn't want to take them through the basement of my house. But the inverter, the conduit that runs from the roof down to the inverter, and the
so you had an open house that had about,
and I had my computer set up so they could look and see what the production was over the course of the year. Well, for this year, so from January up till now. And I had some sample utility bills so they could look at those, and so people could get feel for kind of how it had worked out, and I had treats which nobody wanted except for one family came with a couple kids.
so basically what I'm hearing is that you had an open house to promote solar.
Well, I think so that it was
you had about
the National Solar Tour is a non-profit thing that's not promoting any one contractor or anything, but it's just giving a chance for people to talk to people who've installed solar and get questions answered, and learn something about it. So I would say, some people who came were like people in my neighborhood or people I know at church, but there are some people who, were thinking about installing it on their own, and had questions and wanted to know how it worked out. And most people, I think, were from the city of Oshkosh, but not everybody. I think there are some people from surrounding areas. Somebody said they lived out in the country, and we're planning on doing ground mounted, and, just wanted to know kind of what my experience had been. So yeah, in a way, yeah, it is kind of a promotion, but it's also kind of just a chance for people to talk to somebody who's installed and, get some questions answered. People sometimes mistakenly think that if you have solar and the grid goes down, you have electricity, but unless you got a battery, you don't. For safety reasons, if the grid goes down, your panels are disconnected too. So. I
So
can't
of
be
the
sending
2
out
dozen
power
people
onto
or
the grid.
so of the 2 dozen people or so that attended, do you know how many of them may have been from Oshkosh?
I think most of them, I think there's one or two couples that said they lived outside of Oshkosh. I mean, they're in the area, but they lived outside of Oshkosh.
So I guess what I'm getting at here is that we do know that there is some local interest.
Yeah, I was surprised, actually. I was surprised. I honestly didn't think anybody would show up.
And how did you promote it?
What's that?
How did you promote it? How did you let people know you were doing
Well,
that?
League of Women Voters and my church's Facebook page and newsletter, and there was an article in the Herald, and you know, trying to think what. Oh, I posted it on my own Facebook, so my friends knew about it, and you know.
Okay, so a lot of social media and an article in the Herald.
Right, yeah.
I'm just kind of trying to feel out how we could reach out to these same people who might be interested or other people.
Right,
The big
yeah.
question these days is how do you reach people, you know?
Yeah, I think I know at least one couple. It was somebody I happen to know, but I haven't seen for a long time. I'm not Facebook friends with them, but they saw the article in the Herald, you know, and oh, I emailed my neighbors too, you know, and if I didn't have their email, I went and knocked on some people's doors, you know, so, you know, so.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing that and for doing that. I'm sorry I couldn't make it, but I think maybe I could come over sometime and peek anyway. You might let me in. Or
Yeah, I'll let you in, yeah.
to let me out as the case may be.
You've been in my backyard, I think, but I could pull out my poster that I made. And I could show you the data, you know, from the monitoring app, so.
Okay, so I guess kind of with this whole question.
We
and
got a
we're
couple
gonna-
hands up here. I don't know who was first though.
Pardon me?
We have a couple hands up, but I don't know who Michelle or Brad. I don't know which one of you went first, but
Let's go with Michelle.
Okay. It might have been Brad, but I will jump in line. So I think my thought was not necessarily promoting a group buy over another, but having at least the information out there and using us as a source to show that this is something that's going on in the community, especially since we know, we can also promote the fact that it's easier for people to get permitted for solar right now as well. So I think that would be a good thing to get the information out there about. And with the I don't know what you want to call it, but just with the understanding that we're not necessarily promoting one sponsor, one company over another, but we want to make sure that people know that this is happening and they can participate if they'd like.
So basically letting people know about solar and that it's easier now because we have some new regulations in the city.
Well, that and also saying, in addition, we know there's this group buy going on through, this company or, through the Fox Cities, blah, blah, blah. I forget what the group was called that is doing it.
Legacy?
Yeah, SolarLegacy is.
Or Legacy Solar.
Yeah, maybe it's Legacy Solar. I get that mixed up. I'm not sure. I don't know which it is. I can go look.
I mean,
there's
so
also
Michelle, that's kind of the guidance that I'm looking for from this group today is because we kind of are wanting to know, should the city actively kind of promote this, or are we more like there's this happening, but like how you said, but there are all these other companies too that we're also okay with you using if you wanted to. It's your choice. So I mean, that's exactly the guidance that I'm looking for.
Okay, let's hear from Brad. Can we hear from Brad, please?
Can you hear me okay?
I can.
Okay, great. Yeah, I mean, that was my first question was what is our role in this process? But it sounds like it's promoting and maybe just raising awareness. I mean, it sounds to me like I would agree. I don't know that we want to necessarily lean toward one business or one program. I agree with Michelle that I think making people aware, because my guess is people may not have been aware that before it was sort of difficult or cost prohibitive to permit to get solar in the city, right? So the first step is letting people know, hey, you may not have known that a rule changed, but a rule changed. And now it's easier for you to get solar if that's something you're interested in. If solar is something that you're interested in, here are kind of the scenarios for how you make that happen, right? We can kind of, and I don't know if that this means creating a document, or having a time where perhaps we have multiple presentations, and really promoting it and letting people know. You can go it alone, and there's lots of businesses and ways for you to do that. I think people need some hand holding with understanding tax credits like the ITC. I think people need some understanding. I think there's a lot of education that goes into this, understanding, like as Pat said, what does your energy bill look like, and what does that kind of mean from your utility provider, and how does how does that alter your relationship with that entity? So I think those are kind of good, like, FAQs to go over with people. But then I think you can also say, right, like, and then there's a group buy option, right, where you and 5 of your neighbors or 10 of your neighbors or 50 of your neighbors decide you're all gonna go in on this together. And maybe your, cousin who lives across town or whatever it may be. Right. But there's an economy of scale, right, that benefits more people, assuming that the solar group buy goes that way, right, that there's an additional benefit. So I think you've got to kind of like let people know their options. I would also encourage us, depending on kind of what promotional route we want to take, is circling back to that presentation that was given by, and the name is going to escape me, but by the gentleman who basically did that analysis of the city of Oshkosh and said like 5% of the city needs to be converting to renewable energy every year for the next however many years for us to meet our kind of climate change goals. I think including some of that analysis to say like, hey, someone from MIT, did an analysis of the city, and here's what they found. So maybe that kind of gives people some context and understanding of like, oh, maybe I should talk to 10 of my neighbors about us all going in on solar together because it's going to be cheaper in the long run.
Yeah.
Okay, Pat?
The group buy idea is you wouldn't have to get your neighbors to go along with it. It would be just that you're part of this larger group that is, the whole Fox Valley area where they're, so the group buy thing isn't done on a real small scale. It's done on that larger scale,
Or it's done through the municipality if you go with the MREA.
Right, yeah. Although my impression from an email a while back with the MREA is they would like it. It's more likely to be supported by them if it's more than just the city of Oshkosh, if it's like all of Winnebago County or.
But I also wonder if, from a promotional standpoint, getting, say, some neighborhood associations, to think about this. I think neighborhood associations have kind of become a hot thing. And perhaps that is a way in which you get people to talk to each other, right? And if you've got a handful of neighborhood associations who can also kind of put some weight behind it for whatever that's worth, right? To say, we want the city and or county to support this because we are all interested in this.
Right, yeah. And
But getting back to one of Pat's earlier points was, do we know for sure what the margin is, that cost savings from a group buy versus, how do we research that? So, because that seems like an important Q&A, right?
It's a,
Because it may be perceived as adding complexity to the individual property owner by do a group, but is it worth it?
yeah, well, the thing is, an individual property owner can't really organize a group buy. It has to be done at the government level, or has to be provided for you by some other bigger group.
Well, that's what that's what I
Yeah.
mean, though. Is like
Yeah,
if the city goes to this trouble, or we make a recommendation, we kind of have to be able to tell them, if you participate in the group
Right.
buy, this is the discount you're going to get, and this is what it translates to you in real terms.
Yeah, let me grab the brochure for the Sierra Club group buy.
Yeah, so that's exactly right, Ken. So like and I don't know if this is too much trouble, but you'd almost have to contact somebody from a company and say, I want to do solar,
Yeah.
and have them provide you with a quote, and then fill out the application for the Legacy Solar Co-op, have them provide you with a quote, and compare.
From the Sierra Club group buy, I think the payback you would get was up to $1,000 that you would get back, depending on the number of people who participated, and that would be, I don't think that depended on, yeah, it says it does depend on your system size. So it would depend on how big a system you had, and also the number of people who participated. But I think it was like up to $1,000, and so typically these systems that most people are going to put on their homes are going to cost, after you get your tax credit at least, are going to cost $10,000 to $15,000 probably.
Pat, you might not know this from the documentation you have, but I'm kind of wondering what participation means in this sense. Is this people participating in a project, or people participating in a calendar year, or?
For the Sierra Club, it was over the period of the whole group buy. Because I remember, however, and I don't know how they decide when they end the group buy. I don't know. And that probably varies from group buy to group buy. I just know the Sierra Club, I think you also get a small rebate from Focus on Energy. And I think I got the Focus on Energy check. And then I started thinking, well, where's my group buy rebate? And, so I called them and they said, in a few months, we'll get it to you when we're done with the group buy, and it came, we installed in October, and I think the rebate from the group buy came the following spring.
Okay. Hey, another question here. Maybe Mark, you got this. I've heard three things now. We've heard the rebate from the group buy. I've heard the ATC, and I've heard the Focus on Energy. Are any of those synonymous with each other?
They're three separate things. Yeah. Now, right now, the Focus on Energy thing, I think it was bigger when we got our panels, but I think right now it's $500.
That is correct.
And that's a little trick. At least when we did it, it depended on like how many panels you had and whether they were facing south or not. And like we had some panels facing south, some facing east. So that you'd have to research to make sure what that rebate is. But it's not it's not the biggest part is the tax credit.
Another thing I'm curious about is when you're participating in a group buy versus contacting contractors on your own, it's those little nuances, and it did come up in our conversation. So like if I do the group buy, does that prohibit me from getting a battery into my system? Or do I have to do that completely separate? Like certain features, are there limitations placed on it when you're doing a group buy?
I think it might. We didn't even consider doing a battery, but I think that would be a good question to ask. Like, what did we decide there? SolarLegacy or Legacy Solar? Let me see if I can find their brochures. But I think that would be a good question to ask them. My guess would be you can do what you want, because I think in a group buy, they come out at least with the Sierra Club, they came out and they looked at the property and they said, okay, this is how many panels we could put on the south facing roof. This is how many we could put on the east facing roof. Let's look at your electric bills, see what it would probably do for your electric bills. So it's very individualized. It really depends on your house and how the roof space and how much money you're already spending on electricity, in terms of what they propose. It's not like there's a cookie cutter thing that everybody's getting the same thing.
Yeah, because I was
So
just
I don't
thinking
see
like,
why they
I don't
wouldn't
know,
let-
my head
it
goes
may
to
depend on the
computers.
contractor if they do batteries or not. I don't know if Northwind does batteries. You'd have to research that.
Right.
I'm assuming
Because I
they
was
would
thinking,
because that's becoming more popular, but I don't know.
I was just thinking that if you wanted a battery, oh no, you have to upgrade to this inverter or this converter, or you have to get a different type of panel, or you have to, get a
Oh,
different type of wiring harness.
mhm.
So like, are there certain technical prohibitions because there's like a base package in order to get,
Yeah. I guess the question is,
by?
you just have a choice of types of panels and inverters and the possibility of, um, yeah, or whether because they're mass buying, they're all the same kind of panel, they're all the same kind of inverter.
We do have two other people with their hands up, so we're going to give them a turn.
Okay.
Let's go to, I didn't see which hand went up again first, so I'm going to Brad this time.
That was just going to be one of my comments too. Is just also thinking about people who are interested in solar. Your roof kind of needs to be facing the. I mean, you got to have a good spot for solar if you're gonna do rooftop. I mean, you can kind of make it work, but certain positions are better than others, and so that's something to think about for folks. Again, I think kind of having a solar 101 for people who are interested, and I this is kind of my ignorance on the group buy thing. I don't can group buys kind of be um spread across like residents and businesses and other things? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, yeah, it seems like a group buy is potentially a good way to go. But again, right, I think it's like making people aware of all of the little, nuances and that sort of thing. I mean, again, I will also say, and just learning what I've learned about energy and the grid system and utilities and all those other things. I think giving people some like primer again of like what that means. I've heard a lot of talk about batteries. I've talked with people who do solar and have heard that batteries make sense if you are making energy on peak. So you are making or I guess you're using stored energy on peak, right, and getting that solar kind of into your battery, because then you're not drawing from the grid when demand is at its peak. That's when you're saving money. So I've kind of heard some mixed response about batteries. I don't know if that's something we would want to make a recommendation on, or if that works in a group buy. Just that's kind of my 2 cents on batteries.
Okay, let's move on to Michelle.
Okay. I just want to say too, I think a lot of this is stuff that we can put into the brochure, or things that, maybe we're already thinking about for that, as like FAQ, things like that, Solar 101. And I think that would be a good timing for that, is when we have that brochure done, is to kind of go over this stuff. I think I don't know what the timing is for the group buy, but it might be before that. And I don't know if it'd be beneficial then for them to come in. It sounds like that might be a good idea then, for them to come into a meeting at the SAB to talk about what their group buy entails, so that people can get a little bit more information about it. We can have, our questions answered about this particular group buy and things like that. I think that's a good idea, just from what the comments and questions that I've been hearing, because I think a lot of this takes a lot of homework, a lot of time. And like I said, I don't know how long the group buy lasts for this, so it might all just come after this would even close. So,
I'd
would
like to ask if anybody who hasn't spoken yet would like to share anything with us. I just want to give you that opportunity. Okay, I don't see any hands or hear anyone. So, Brandon, you were just ready to say something?
I mean, I have a couple things to say. I mean, on the batteries, I know that, for instance, if your system costs like $15,000, your batteries are going to be cost prohibitive. Like they could be like another $10,000 added on to the cost of your solar installation. So it's, not reasonable for everybody to do that. And the plan was, Legacy Solar Co-op was ready to present to you guys this month, but me and Margie kind of talked and thought that we should have this conversation first, get people's thoughts going, and then they're available next month. This solar group buy is available all of next year. It doesn't close until I think December of 2022.
Okay, well then I think at this point, I mean, we've given this quite a bit of time already in discussion. What would you guys think of planning to bring this back next month for further discussion with the solar people present? Next month is November, so that works. And in the meantime, I think that Brandon and I can get together and write up. I mean, I was hearing a lot of really good stuff here. And I think that we could write up the Solar 101 or brochure or whatever it would turn out to be, at least kind of make an outline that we could flesh out later. Does that sound fine to everybody? Is there anybody who has any
So-
objections?
not an objection,
Michelle?
but a question. So is this just discussion with them present, or is it them doing a presentation on what their group buy is and entails and such?
I was anticipating asking them to do a presentation and then we can ask questions and have further discussion.
Okay. All right.
Does that
thank you.
sound good?
Yeah, I think that's good.
Okay,
As-
we'll plan on that for next month then. Brad, you had something else?
Yeah,
No?
just in terms of kind of to Michelle's comment about like doing the homework again, and maybe this is where SAB can be helpful. So do we want to have? I guess what I would say is in any type of information that we're going to present, perhaps it makes sense to use a rubric and sort of ask similar questions of of the different group buys or of the different kind of options for people to have for solar, or is that going too far?
You're sounding like a teacher,
Gee, I wonder why.
I know.
Isn't that, I
So
mean,
yeah,
even if we basically standardized our questions, wouldn't that make sense?
Yes, and that's sort of what I was getting at, was asking, I guess like a document that I'm envisioning that could be helpful to people is to say, I'm resident A and I want to go buy solar by myself. I'm going to just call up any solar installer in the valley and I'm going to ask them these questions. Right. And then I'm going to also ask those same questions of the MREA group buy and the Legacy Solar Co-op group buy. And then you're getting the same answer to all of the questions. And then you can basically compare and contrast who's the best bang for the buck. Does that make sense?
You gonna do that?
I'm willing to help with that, sure. I mean, I think I agree that having Legacy Solar present, and they can be as general and specific as they need to be. I think the ultimate goal is to make a recommendation for whom folks in Oshkosh and surrounding areas should or could buy solar through. But I think I think it is important to make people aware of where they fit in the system and how the system works.
Absolutely.
just to finish off, I'll give you guys an idea of the document I've been working on. Would you like me to share that with you? Okay. So this is kind of all encompassing, at least trying. And it's not done yet, but these are the kind of Q&As that I think everybody's thinking of. What applications are required? Do we need to obtain any other permits from the county or the state? Talks about ground mounts. It's talking about setback requirements if it is ground mounted. Where do we submit our permits? What are the fees? This is just kind of continuously growing. So hopefully, once I get all these questions answered, then we can create the document. Does that make sense?
I think this is a really good start.
Okay, good.
I agree.
And then I kind of have
It's
this
awesome.
going too.
I'm
You
curious
kind of
So
could
this
have
is
led
kind of
with
a
this,
final. Well, it's not done, so.
Okay, so
And I
that's
think
where
that
we're
this is
gonna,
something I might have created from a previous meeting. Yeah,
so we're gonna
It's
use this
also-
as our jumping off
we're on the right
point
track.
next month, right?
I think.
If you want to research it, there's
Sure.
also several really good FAQs available from nonprofit organizations as well as some providers that could be useful in sort of the basic technical stuff and the basic tax and saving stuff, integrated with what Mark's working on that's very Oshkosh specific in terms of process and cost, from the city. But and I find it informative. But that's great, Mark. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that.
Okay, are we ready to move on? Okay. Then we will go, well, we're gonna take it right back to Michelle in that case. The next thing up is the Menominee Shoreland Restoration Update. How was the summer out there?
Oh, it was interesting. So the volunteer days were here and there, whether we were able to do them from storms or really hot weather, because it seems like it was either or for a few of those. But thankfully, there were a few that also the Audubon group helped out with, the Winnebago Audubon. So they brought, several volunteers that were helping out in, we had some in July, August, and September, actually, which is great. So they were very involved this season. We had, some great volunteers come out. What was that? Yeah, a couple of weekends ago, I believe. It's hard for me to keep track because time is weird for me. It always seems like it was last week and then it was like a month ago. But it was in September there. But in any case, we had a great time. We had so many volunteers come out that we kept blowing my goals away for the day. So it was just great. So we really cleaned up the viewing area. There was lots of trimming going on. So I'm really happy with that. A lot of the cut plant cut so that we can encourage growth of other species, along with the coreopsis, trying to reduce that a little bit, so that it also does not completely take over, because we've had a lot of really resilient coreopsis that's been trying to take over a little bit. So we've also been trying to cut that back a lot to help other species. And we didn't have any further bird activity. I really think that's all done. I don't think any others are trying to nest at this time. So those are pretty much done for the season. We do still have, we might have another cleanup day. If we do, it'll be pretty minimal because in October we don't have too much extra growth going on to do cleanup, but you know, might have a smaller day where, you know, a few people go out just to make sure there isn't trash or, you know, anything else that needs to be taken care of and that kind of thing. But yeah, I'm really happy with the season that we had this year. There will also be planning meetings for the next year, as well as a meeting to talk about our short and long-term plans, because we were up for renewal last year, apparently, but nobody had noticed because it was COVID was taking over all of our lives. And so, and we had a lot of canceled meetings with the Parks Board too. So we weren't able to do anything with them, I believe, last year either. So we're going to work with them this year. They're not sure when the next Park Board meeting will be, but I'm hoping to get everybody together so that we can, you know, try to make those plans and do something great for the future. I've had a lot of good discussions with volunteers and where they would like to see things go and things like that. So we've had a lot of great ideas, and I look forward to doing more planning so that we can do even more fun things next season.
Awesome, thank you. From what I'm hearing, you had much more positive feedback this year as opposed to not so positive feedback.
Right. I think we had one complaint last year, which I just was blown away by. I didn't anticipate to get any that season because there was a lot going on with COVID again and things. So we didn't have as many volunteers. It was really tricky. But yeah, we did go and address it then. We were able to trim things back and such. But this season I have not heard of any complaints. And I think things went really well. Every time we were out there, we heard really great feedback. I had people from both New York and Australia that came by during different sessions where I was out there, and you know, they're like, "Oh, this is great." And I'm like, you know, you should make sure you tell the Parks Board that you really like this. You know, it's good for them to hear feedback about what people like and such. And they tell me where they're from, and I'm like, oh, I could tell with the Australians, but not the New Yorkers as much. But yeah, in any case, they're like, oh yeah, we're from New York. We're just traveling around and this is beautiful. You know, this is amazing. We really like this spot. We were surprised by it. So, and both the Australians and the New Yorkers were surprised that it was the only spot along the lake that they found in Oshkosh that had native plants, and were really pleased with how it looked in our spot. So,
well, that was originally intended as a pilot program, so it would be nice if maybe some private landowners or other portions of our parks or something would take that as, hey, this works, and expand that a little bit. I believe there actually is some along the university edge of the river, is there not? Something similar?
Yeah, so they don't have there's a native planting along Waiwash that's pretty large, but then there's a smaller area on the I don't think it's exactly on the Waiwash, but it's right by the Eric Lab. So it was a collaboration between the university and Winnebago County Land and Water and our group to have a low growth site there just as a kind of neat example of something else that could be done as well, with, you know, the specific plants and plugs that they put in. So we also have a plant list of everything that was put in there. And from what I understand, it looks great every time I visit it. It's still pretty low growth. At the same time, we have to remember that it's next to the river. So it would be great to see more like that along the river, but understand the lake will be different. And because we don't have the same kind of things as that area does, we don't have the trees that kind of go out into the water. We don't have as much shade in the park either, where that kind of controls things a little bit more like growth, because we have a lot of sun. We don't have a lot of shading from trees and things like that. There's not a lot of other growth along the shore, so I'm not sure if that would affect things, but I think it would be great to do more research or do another plot that shows, you know, this is using the instance from the university, and seeing how this does on the lake, something like that. But again, that's not something we've formally come up with yet, but it could be something that we consider during our organizational meeting, and would be kind of cool to see.
Okay, well, thank you so much for that report and for everything you do for that all year long, Michelle. You're quite amazing, and it's wonderful. And I'm so glad that people are showing up to help too.
Yeah, and I mean, really, I can't take all the credit, or maybe even I can't even really take half, because Justin really stepped up. He really helped out last year. Justin Mitchell, to help do some cleanup when I couldn't personally go out there and physically help as much. He kind of took the reins and really, really helped out and organized people to get out there. And Janet this year, when the reasons, if I couldn't make a volunteer day, then she stepped up and as a leader, and she led like 3 of the sessions this summer. So along with the one that was specifically sponsored by the Audubon, and the other ones she just put out in her newsletter. These are the dates that are coming up, so people come out. So Janet and Justin Mitchell did a lot.
And for those of you who don't know, Justin Mitchell was one of the originators of this site and a former board member and chair of the Sustainability Board. He's now on the Plan Commission. And Janet Wissick is I think she's still the president of Audubon. She has been for, and one of the very active members, the head of the Bird Fest. So yes, they're very involved in the community, and we greatly appreciate everything they do. Okay, well, thank you. Moving on.
Michelle, I heard you say newsletter. We did one for the nesting boxes. I don't know if you're interested, but if you want a newsletter for kind of a synopsis of how the year went and maybe some dates for people if they're interested to volunteer next year, by all means, you can just send me kind of, you know, like I did before for the nesting boxes. We can get that in the newsletter. I mean, as soon as this Friday, so or next Friday or whenever, if you want to, just kind of put it out there.
When do you do the newsletters? How often do you do that?
Every week.
Oh, okay. Sounds good.
Yep.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever you do it, there'd be another Friday coming. Okay, moving on then to number 7, we've got our SAB goals and accomplishments review. I would like us to all share a little bit in this with ideas. Since we haven't met since June, and since it's been kind of a weird last couple of years period, I think it might be time for us to take a whole new look at what we want to accomplish and what kind of goals we might have in mind. They may not be the same as they were last time we had this discussion. I know some new things have come to my attention. I'm sure that's happened with the rest of you too. And so I just wanted to give us an opportunity to throw some new things at the wall and see what sticks for, you know, all of us. None of us can do as much individually as we all can if more than one of us is working on this. So is working on sustainability, resiliency, whatever we want to call it. So I know that some of the things we've already talked about, obviously the solar buys is something that we want to continue to pursue because we've got this change in the ordinance, and we want to make sure that we share that.
Margie, not to cut you off, do you want me to share my screen? I have the document. I can pull it up.
Oh, sure, that'd be, well,
And then
no,
if we want
not
to make
yet.
edits, if we want to make edits to it, then I can just kind of do it right now, and then I could save it as a new copy. Or
Well, before we do that, though, I'd really like to see if anybody has any new ideas that we should be adding. Because as soon
Okay.
as people see that, then everybody goes, oh yeah, there was that. You know what I mean? So my first question here is going to be, does anybody have any ideas? And I see Lisa already has her hand up. I love that. Go ahead, Lisa.
Thank you, Margie. So I would like to add something about park space or native wildlife areas in Oshkosh. I know in the spring we had a discussion with, I believe it was the Planning Commission, talking about park space, and that's something that we should focus more on in Oshkosh. With my experience in Appleton this summer, I realized that park space really brings people together, and seeing the wildlife, I just think it brings something whole new to the neighborhoods. So I guess that would be a major focus for me. And if anyone else has anything to add on that, that would be awesome.
Okay, and that is something that is covered in or is mentioned in the sustainability plan, but it's quite probable that we will want to be expanding on what our current plan says too. That's supposed to kind of be a fluid document that we can continue to add to as we see the need for additional things. And it's also something that we can go, hey, we accomplished that. So okay, and does anybody else have an idea they'd like to share? Anything new and wonderful? Anybody? Okay, then I'm going to take a turn. You may have been doing some reading lately. I know I certainly have been. There's something out there called PFAs. This is very bad stuff that gets into water and is not good for us. I would really like us to take a look at learning more about it, doing some research, learning how it may affect us here in Oshkosh, whether it's a problem with our lakes, with our rivers, with our groundwater, you know, just where do we stand with this? It's been not just a national, but an international topic that I've been seeing a lot of in a lot of the news feeds that come across my desk. And so that's one area of focus that I would really like to work on. I don't believe that we have anything that specific in the sustainability plan, but it may be something that we need to add. So that's one of mine. Anybody else have anything they'd like to share? Did you guys get my email? The one that said, hey, be sure and think about this. Okay.
Hi, Margie, this is Eric. Actually, I did not receive your email.
Oh, well, I sent it to you, but you also received my text that said, read my email.
Oh, well,
Anyway, go ahead.
something I wanted to move forward with was the proposal to convert the city fleets where applicable to either full EV or hybrid models.
Okay, which is something we've certainly discussed in the past, but we need to continue.
It got put off with the whole solar, and then with the moving away from investment in the fossil fuels and such. So, I mean, that's understandable. That's something I'd like to pick up again in the next few months, at least, to get a focus on and get some sort of legislature put forward to the city council.
Absolutely. And you know, there's more and more information out there all the time. So that's fantastic. Of course, what we know is that, for example, our police department should switch to all Teslas. But, and I'm sure the officers would probably not fight that too much, but
There's
I'm
actually
sure the
three different
financial
companies right now that produce hybrid model police SUVs, and studies have already been done on those. So like the data's out there, we just got to collect it and put it in a nice package and present it.
to present it and finance it. Yep, got it. Okay, anybody else? Really? Wow, guys. Pat, you're on mute, honey. Pat, you're on mute.
What's happening with electric charging stations? I mean, that I know there was talk of them being put in by the new shelter, but in general, is there any?
There has actually been quite a bit of additional talk based on where we were a year ago with that. I've been asking that question for every new project that comes before the Plan Commission where it's applicable. We do know that there's a new gas station going in on Main Street that will be adding some chargers there. We know, of course, about the electric chargers that are going to be part of the new park pavilion. And there, I think, are going to be other opportunities. But yes, we're trying to keep that on the front burner for everybody who's doing new projects, so that just to make sure the infrastructure is there. But yes, that should definitely be, and that's on our list, I'm pretty sure.
Mhm.
Brandon's going, yeah, it is. Do you want me to show you the list now, Margie? Because, oh, wait, Brad has his hand up. Brad.
Yeah, kind of related to the new, I think, park pavilion. I mean, I guess I don't know how much of this is like a thing specific to us, but I'm just curious about, we've been invited to these various presentations. So I think about, the park project kind of on the end of near where the Oshkosh truck site is. I think I went to the bus one for the bus station. The new development kind of over on South Main. I guess just curious to know, for any of those projects, kind of where they're at, if sustainability, can influence the project, depending on where it's at, or I guess in some instances, perhaps make a last ditch effort. I feel like we get invited to these presentations, and I understand that things can move slowly because of just the nature of things, but it feels like it goes quiet, and then you kind of don't know what's happening.
Okay, so what you're suggesting, I believe, is that we try to keep the sustainability board more in the loop with the different municipal projects that are going on, so that we have a better chance of offering our sustainability knowledge when they need it.
Yeah, and I think for any project that has already been existing or approved, I mean, I think in my eyes it's sort of never too late to offer some advice, but I think certainly for future projects, just being able to be more involved and aware.
The Parks Department is also looking at a new building right there on Witzel, kind of where they are, well, definitely where they are now, but a much different facility, shall we say. And that was another question that had come up, was how sustainable was that going to be, and how much was it going to encompass native plantings, for example, because it's the Parks Department, So yes, we need to figure out a way to collaborate better with basically all the other departments. It's only something I've been working on for like 10 years now. If anybody has any brilliant ideas on that, please share.
Yeah, and that's something, Margie, I kind of, being the sustainability director for the university, I mean, that's something that I feel like I've been feeling, too, is like being at the table at the right time. But to be at the table, you have to be invited, right? And so I think it's sometimes just making people a little bit more aware that you're not there as an, you're not an adversary. You're there to be collaborative and to be helpful. So I think it's just getting, making people aware that we can be there and be helpful.
Yes, and we should probably have a conversation about that soon too, Brad. And by the way, congratulations on being the permanent full-time sustainability director at the university.
Thank you.
Let's see, does anybody else have any thoughts? Okay, Brad. Oh, Pat, you have another one? Go ahead. You're on mute again.
Yeah, this isn't a fully fleshed out idea, but there was I think maybe in June, there were meetings about the whole issue of affordability of housing, more affordable housing in Oshkosh. And one thing that would be good to incorporate into that would be that the cost of housing is not just the mortgage or the rent you have to pay, but it's also the utility bills you have to pay. And so part of making housing more affordable is the energy efficiency of the building, maybe renewable energy, maybe not, but at least the energy efficiency of the building will make the housing more affordable, and to somehow get that idea incorporated into when they're looking at how to increase the amount of affordable housing,
Okay, thank you, Pat. And that is a very good point. That affordable housing study is still ongoing. It's I think they're going to try to have some conclusions on things by the end of the month, but that is a point that has been brought up on specific portions of it, but not the way you just stated it. And I really like that. So thank you. We'll see if we can get that included too.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anybody else have anything? Michelle, do I see your hand up? I see your mute's on.
Okay, this is better. Okay. Sorry about that. So I'm just trying to figure out, so I know we wanted to look at our goals for this year. Are we trying to come up with new goals for the rest of this year? Because I thought maybe we were going to talk about our current goals for the year and the progress of where we're at, and if we need to work on any of the other goals that we currently have.
Yes, I was just going to have Brandon put that up so that we can take a look at what our accomplishments are. That would be the accomplishments part of that. There was one more thing that I really think that we need to take a look at, and that's resiliency. We've never really addressed that. We always talk about it in terms of sustainability, but given the extreme weather situations that we've had across just our country, let alone the rest of the world. I mean, there's been the hurricanes and floods, there's been the wildfires. Since I saw y'all last, I was privileged to get to evacuate in front of a wildfire. I was in California, and I'll tell you, that's something I just really hadn't anticipated ever doing. But it gives you a real feel for what sort of stress the world is under right now. And it raised the question in my mind, how ready, how resilient is Oshkosh for what climate change may be bringing to us in the next 3 years, 5 years, 10 years? What kind of a plan is out there? And is that something that we can help with? And so I wanted to propose adding that to our sustainability plan, because I know that in those terms, it's definitely not in there at this point. And I think it might be something that we need to take a look at. But in answer to your question, Michelle, that would kind of be a goal for next year. So that's where I would be putting that. But I did want to be sure that we got that out there. And the reason that I wanted you guys to weigh in on this before we put up what we'd already talked about was I wanted to see if there were new things that we wanted to include while we're working through this other stuff. I'm not trying to negate anything we've done in the past and of course we need to verify our accomplishments. But I think a lot of this was things that maybe is in there, but we need to look at it with new eyes. So anyway, Brandon, if you have that, that'd be awesome. It goes,
I will
yeah,
share my
Marty, I
screen.
had it an hour ago.
Yeah, I got it right here.
Really quick on the related to the resiliency, I found it very interesting that my homeowner's insurance just sent me a letter basically stating that they as a company were going to be altering their policies due to the increasing amounts of catastrophic weather, and that they would not be like so every time there's a flood, every time like the basically the letter said, less will be covered because we know that these problems are getting worse, and so you can't claim that all the time, right? And so that tells me something a lot about being more resilient as a society.
Yes, exactly. It's kind of like, how can they keep covering you when you keep rebuilding on the same spot on the river that keeps flooding? I mean, I kind of can see their point, you know? Okay, so we just need to run over these quickly and see what we have done. Are there things on here that people are noticing right away? Just shout them out. Including group by options. Well, obviously we're doing the first one, right? That's ongoing. Sustainability plan update, ongoing. Green infrastructure audit. That was what Stephen had started with us, and we have had that on hold for a couple of years now, I think. How long have you been with us, Brandon? A couple of years?
Yeah, coming up on 2 in January.
Okay, yeah. EV phase in, there it is, right there for you, Eric. We do have that on there, and we brought that up again.
On that point, we've talked about this in the past, so I just want to bring this up again. I think I brought it up with Aaron. I had read an article somewhere that, to kind of begin this process, it would be something like where we could maybe encourage, not we, but SAB, encourage council to, at the next CIP, set aside X amount of dollars and try to do that every year to start building up a fund to potentially purchase an EV vehicle. Something along those lines would be a good starting point.
Okay, thank you. Okay, permeable pavers. Did we ever get around to looking at what our code currently is? We know what it is. It says you can't do them pretty much. Okay.
There was the UWO presentation that they basically researched permeable pavers and found that basically they're not allowed in driveways besides in a certain overlay district that doesn't exist. So
Okay.
it's
I'm
allowed
willing
in
to let
like
that one go right for now because I think there's more, there are stronger things that we should be doing. I've also learned recently that Oshkosh is a very unique geographic area compared to the rest of the Fox Valley. Because in Appleton, they have 30 feet of rise or so from the river, from the rivers down to the lake, which gives them a lot different drainage options. Because we're so incredibly flat here in Oshkosh and are built on clay, we don't have a lot of drainage, which would mean that the permeable pavers would not be as valuable here as they might be in other circumstances. So I am willing, if any, unless Brad or Vic, who I see are also on there, are adamant about that, I would be willing to put that on hold.
That's fine.
On hold sounds great.
Good. Let's do on hold for that one. Green Cities ongoing. Okay, sustainable solutions to waste management. Brad, Bob, who's not here, Ken and Michelle, how do you feel about that? Boy, nobody's speaking up in defense of that.
I feel.
there has been
Oh, go ahead.
there hasn't been not much done on this because of our inability to visit certain facilities.
Yes,
At least
okay.
that's
And
what
a
I meant.
very, very good point, Ken. And Ken and I had been discussing earlier the fact that we really do want to take a tour of the local, by local, I mean the Tri-County Area Recycling facility. And I keep asking if they're ready for us to do that yet. And so far, I haven't had a yes answer. They were citing COVID as a good reason not to do that. But I will pursue that again. I will check on that. So let me make a note to do that. Other thoughts on that, anyone?
I can provide an update on the biodigestion, and we're ordering bins and we're making the stickers right now that will go on bins. You know, a couple of places, so like the co-op has bins. You know, there are a few customers for the campus digester. And again, we're open to getting more people. There's just certain things we can take, and there's certain things we can't take.
And
Is
you
there
want
a
to be sure not
process
to pollute the stream.
Is there a process for participation yet? How to engage?
It's really just, yeah, talking with you know, specifically Brian Langoff, the biogas program manager on campus. But I can facilitate that connection if you need to, Ken.
Yes, I would very much like to.
Okay, I can do that.
Okay. Anything else on that one from anyone? Okay, the Carbon Fee and Dividend Act.
I did have one thing to add about,
Okay, sorry, Michelle.
it's okay. I don't know if I talked about this previously from just calling around, because I know I talked to some of the waste areas, like in the landfills and different things, and the landfills themselves they don't really want to take more on with like a composting area or things like that. So trying to figure out if we wanted to, you know, biodigestion is a great way, and that's honestly the best case scenario, because then we can capture the gases that come off of that and use them for heat and energy, rather than just everything breaking down and all that greenhouse gases getting released into the atmosphere. But if we wanted to do something like community composting, you know, we can look into that further to see if there'd be a way to do some kind of pilot just composting before we would try doing a digester thing. But I just don't know if we wanted to consider composting besides the biodigester, because I don't remember if we talked about that or not.
Okay, and hopefully there will be an opportunity for you to actually have a meeting about, I mean, the four of you that were most interested in this, and discuss where you want to go with that sometime in the next year, you know? And obviously that hasn't happened yet, but when you are ready to do that, just remember that it has to be noticed, so Brandon will have to help you facilitate that meeting. Okay, Carbon Fee and Dividend Act, we have done what we can at the local level. It's on the federal level now. We'll see how that goes. Got it, Brad. Cute. Energy analysis of the city's energy consumption. Are you on that, Brad?
I am. I think Brandon may have sent me some stuff a while ago, but I don't know how parsed out it was. I mean, I think there were numbers pretty large in aggregate. I can go back and look at that again. And maybe I can touch base with Brandon about maybe seeing things a little bit more, some finer granularity of the data.
Okay. Yeah, if nothing else, going through these goals every couple of months does help us remember what we're working on, huh? As in Michelle, Margie, investigate salt on roadways and research alternatives. We actually had passed that on to the interns, as I recall, and they, not the interns, the college students who are so wonderful to help us out every year, and they had given us a report on that, had they not?
They did. And I had actually done some research too by attending a webinar about salt on roadways, actually, as well. So I worked with that student group and shared what I learned.
Okay.
But yeah, I believe, yeah, they did their presentation and talked a little bit about that. And we also had, I believe, the city rep, I forget who it was that was
I think
talking
James
about it.
Robbie spoke to us about that, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we did learn that actually there was a lot more going on with that than we had originally thought, as I recall. So, yep, we're counting that as complete. Okay. Oh yeah, Michelle, we've still got that native plant brochure. Do you want to leave that on there?
Yes. Have not done it
Okay.
yet, but yes, I would like to put that back on for 2022.
2022, we'd like for our completion target. Sounds
Yeah,
good.
I
Yeah.
do.
I suppose we probably want to add another brochure that says something like how to add solar to your house or something, huh? Don't put that on there, Brandon. I'm just saying, at some point it's going to be. Okay, coordinate
We can add
SAP's
it.
facility.
We can add whatever you guys want. We can add.
Well, I'm just saying maybe we should wait a couple of months and then we'll get that done. After next month, we'll see. Coordinate SAB's facilitation of the rain barrel workshop. We actually did
that.
have, through no fault of our own, we did manage to get a couple of those done. Right, Vic? Did you work with one?
Yep, we did one.
Yep. And that was the one that was held on the church, right? At the church?
Correct.
Okay. But still that should be ongoing and we can always get more, we can, the city can always use more rain barrels, yes.
Agreed.
um
I
Good
just,
move.
so I just changed this one. I
Remembering.
changed it to 2021 and get it done Q1 of 2022.
Yes, we'll be wanting that for the next state of the city, so.
Yep. Hopefully we have one.
State of the city, yeah,
Yeah.
good point. Okay, we've continuing to do the Menominee Park as we just heard. Okay, Vic, how are you feeling about this education program these days?
Oh, swell. Nothing's really happened.
So it remains ongoing?
That sounds great.
Okay, we will leave that there.
Thank you.
Could I just make a note? Not about that. I
Absolutely.
was just I was just thinking, Brandon, at least for this one, because it's the 2021 goals, to put it back to create 2020 annual report and then put it completed, and then we can note to add that as a goal for next year, along with what we were going to add for 2022 that Margie said.
Did
like,
we actually,
brochure.
did we actually have one?
Oh, okay,
That's
never
kind
mind.
of yeah, that was kind of the hang up on that. It'll be a,
Yeah, no,
a
that's fine. And
very
I guess
good report.
that's something we should probably
Gotcha.
discuss too. I guess we don't have, this doesn't have to be finalized, but I was thinking about changing this to 2022. But
I just didn't know if we wanted to use that though to help us come up with our report for the 2020 or the 2021 annual report, so we can say, yep, we got a list done in 2021.
yep, I got a list in my office with all your guys' accomplishments actually.
Oh, okay. Well,
So
never
this is
mind.
kind of, I mean, this document is helpful too, but that list is it's got more on it.
Gotcha. Okay, well, if you don't need it for that, then change away.
No, good thought though, for sure.
Let's see. Okay, then down to, oh, the on hold for number 24 or number 6 or whatever you're counting there. The recycling and cleanup thoughts that we'd had. Is that still on hold? Is anybody actively working on that at any point? Okay, again, that was kind of sidetracked because everything changed at the farmer's market for the last couple of seasons anyway, so. Okay. Brandon, remind me to talk to you about this Environmental Leadership Award. Just because I'm not sure how we're handling it now. I know we've had some changes in personnel at both
Well,
lots of stages of it.
I would say now to go back on Michelle's point, this should be complete, right, for 2021.
Oh, well,
But
yes,
again, I
it
don't know
was
if we're
complete for 2021, yes.
okay. So I mean, I'll do that now, I guess, and I guess doing it that way does make sense to leave this way too. Then
The committee that meets for that, I know there's been a couple of retirements and, since the last actual meeting that happened with it that I attended. So I think we're going to have to even do some research to figure out just where we are on that for next year. Okay, anybody done anything on reducing their plastic usage? Why, yes, we all have, but I'm talking officially on this form. Is that ongoing or
That was pretty much
complete?
postponed with COVID because I mean, if anything, companies are increasing their plastic usage for the single use lack of sanitizing, not too many people touching it. So I would put that one on hold personally.
Yeah, it's like, for example, I have like a framework from the manual that we use, but you're spot on. I mean, to-go materials for a lot of restaurants, exponentially increased. In addition, the availability of a lot of alternative materials ceased because of COVID. There's supply chain issues all over the board with getting that stuff in order to reduce plastic. Right now, there's a global glass bottle shortage. So there's a lot of soda pop makers, for example, that aren't delivering at all. So if you go to your grocery stores, you still may see some of those things, but restaurants, vending machines, things like that cannot get glass bottles as an alternative to plastic. Also, aluminum is being diverted to package sizes specifically geared towards retail shopping environments. So it's really difficult to get our finger on this, and we're not even sure when a lot of this is coming back. And this shortage may continue for a year or longer.
On hold sounds like a good place for that then.
Yeah, like even the compostable materials that we use are becoming more and more scarce. Some of that's due to the shipping conundrum we have. Like there's 92 cargo ships right now at the port of LA that are waiting to get in. So there's a lot of different logistical issues involved here.
Thank you for that. I mean, I didn't like what you had to say, but thank you for sharing. Yeah. Sister City, we kind of have that on hold, don't we, Ken?
Yeah,
Sure, put that.
there really is sort of a large there's a lot of research components to that. Number one, we can't get a hold of the nonprofit organization. I mean, we know the dues, we know that sort of thing, but actually connecting, because basically, ideally, you want to connect with a city that has a similar socioeconomic profile to Oshkosh, but then at the same time, you want to find somebody that is a leader in the area of sustainability that we could benefit from. So until we can get a hold of those folks who are not working in the office right now, we're going to need to gather some data and figure out a process to kind of select a sister city.
So on hold for
Yep.
now.
Mhm.
On that note, I want to share something really quick. You need to Google Copenhagen Hill. I think it's what it's called. It's in Denmark, it's in Copenhagen, and it is their new power plant and what they've done with it. It's awesome. So look that one up just in your spare time, guys. You won't be sorry. And then the community gardens that Bob and Ken were going to be, I assume that one's also been put on hold because of circumstances.
Right.
Okay, so that I guess is kind of our overview for 2021. And we can, we'll expand on this in January when we take another quick look at this in our annual workshop where we see if there's more that we want to do or what we might want to change. But thank you guys for the other ideas too, because I think we needed to do that and I appreciate it. Okay, then items for future meetings, unless there was further discussion on that. See none. Okay. Agenda items for future meetings. In November, we've talked about having the solar presentation, the Legacy Solar Co-op presentation and discussion. In December, we'll be having Dr. Feldman's students. This semester, there were only 2 students, so it won't be as long a presentation as we've sometimes had, but I'm sure it will be just as fine a presentation, and that's the important part. So other items for November or December's meetings?
And just so everyone knows, the students are researching urban agriculture.
Yes. Which was the other thing that we had discussed in June. So, and we did move it into that right away. We just hadn't had a meeting to share that. Michelle, are you wanting to give updates on the Shoreland restoration in either of those months or both? Both?
It depends on if, I mean, you can put me down for both. It just depends when we're actually going to present at Parks Board too, because I might have more updates after that. Obviously, we're gonna have some planning meetings and such, but yeah, I think you can put us on and then I'll let you know if I don't have any.
Yeah,
Okay.
just always just mark your calendar, the week before. So like, the Monday before today, if you can let me know by then at the very latest, that's when I need to get the agenda finalized.
Yeah, in order to get through the city process and get noticed in time, we have 1 week before the meetings to do that. And then obviously, we're going to be discussing solar also in November. I don't see anything else that's real pressing for either of those months unless somebody else has something. Though we may come up with something between now and then. How about you, Brandon? Nothing. Oh, you know what? We should check on the status of the city projects, as was pointed out. And see where ideas to see where they are on things like the bus station and the South Main project and what's happening at the Parks Department and that sort of thing.
Yeah, so you want me just to like kind of put together I don't know if a timeline or not even a timeline, but just like where they're at in the permitting process or breaking ground or that type of information?
Well, yes, it would be nice if we could have that being kind of an ongoing item on our agenda where we get an update on the city projects that are in progress.
And again, we're talking about just our private internal municipal projects, not all developments.
Right, just
Yeah.
the ones that we could have a say in.
Yep. Okay.
I mean, like, there was a wonderful presentation about that I know was people could attend and all sorts of things, but for the new Merrill School, since it's not named yet, it's the new Merrill School. And when I asked them some questions about what have they done, how are they dealing with sustainability? The answer was, well, the taxpayers don't really have backing for that. So that is our cue to say, well, maybe you want to learn a little bit more about how sustainability helps you, you know, how it helps your bottom line, that sort of thing. So, okay, is there anything else that anyone wants to add for a future meeting? In which case, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Our next meeting will be on Monday, November 1st. And anybody want to say, I
I
want to
move
adjourn?
to, I move we adjourn.
Anybody want to
Seconded.
say I second that?
I
Got
second
it.
that.
Anybody? Oh, you got to call the roll. Yeah.
That was Michelle and Ken.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right, Miss Davy,
Aye.
Mr. Osmond,
Aye.
Mr. DeGroot,
Aye.
Miss Marone,
Aye.
Mr. Beardsley,
Aye.
Miss Oliver,
Aye.
Miss Mutzel,
Aye.
Miss Hellquist,
Aye. Aye.
Mr. Spambauer.
Aye.
Okay, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Meeting's over.
Great. Thank you, everybody. See you on
Thanks,
November
Bobby.
1st.
Aye.
Bye-bye.
Aye. Thank you.